Hey guys, this is a quick video. I made a server for my friend, and I helped him set up some various things like Hyper-V, and he uses his server for game server, so he has some additional configurations. So previously I made a video just for him using TeamViewer, and he had the idea that I could possibly make some videos about sharing some of my knowledge with how I set up my servers and stuff like that. So this is the first video in a series, and I do apologize for the audio quality and maybe possibly the quality of the video. I am on my ThinkPad at the moment, so this is what I have to work with. And so yeah, while I have my server here, as you can see, I'm on my ThinkPad. It is an 8-core, but it's rather old, so I don't have much memory and stuff like that. So, but it runs well. Hopefully you can't hear too much of the fan in the background and stuff like that. So anyway, let me get on track here. So I have a server set up. I'm just going to use the remote desktop connection, and you can find that in your, I believe it's in the Windows system. No, it's in the, where is it? Accessories? Yeah, there it is. So remote desktop connection, and when you click it, it'll open up with an interface, and it'll ask you which server or which desktop that you want to connect to, and you can there's some additional settings over here you can play around with, but anyway, for now, I've got my server here. So I've already set up my server. I just set up this server yesterday as a test server using Windows Server 2016, and as you can see, it's the standard evaluation, the desktop edition, and I've got a few things already installed to make the videos move along a little quicker. Basically, it's a fresh install. I do have Hyper-V installed, and it's just basically, it's a really small CPU. It's an i3 6100, which it has 4 cores. It's got virtualization, so I mean it's 2 cores with hyper-threading, so it's the machine sees 4 cores. It's got 64 gigabytes of memory. So I just it does have 3 NICs. So basically, when I set this server up, standard install, I go through some configurations, all the same all the time. I usually set the time here. You could set your time zone, right? I turn off the Internet Explorer Enhanced Security for administrators, obviously, because I'm not going to go to a website that I shouldn't. And then I name the server, and I go ahead and I turn on the remote desktop, which is automatically the administrator user is automatically added, but you can also add additional users. But this is a brand new machine, so there is no users. It's just me for now. I do have NIC teaming. Unfortunately, with my virtual switch, and I'll get into that in a minute, the way that I have my network configured at the moment, I had my network set up differently before, so now I'm actually using a wireless hub, and even though I have 3 network interface cards, when I set up my NIC teaming, the 2 additional cards on the NIC team, for some reason I can only set a static IP on the one NIC, which I have here. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of interfaces here. So we have the Intel, and this is the killer gigabit on the motherboard, and then I have an additional Realtek that I've added, and this is the one that I have set up right now as my main connection from my ThinkPad with a static IP. Okay, so I can always connect to this Rise server without having to worry about losing the connection. Now, of course, I do have NIC teaming set up, but because I have Hyper-V, it's set up here, and it is using DHCP at the moment, but that's neither here nor there because this is just a test situation, so it's okay. So for NIC teaming, it's pretty simple. You just add your interfaces, which I've got 2 of them right here, and create a team. And so those 2 are running in a team right now, and if I actually, it's called T1, so if I do click on that, you can see it's got 2 gigabits per second when they're together. But because I'm running Hyper-V, you can see there's no IPv4 or IPv6, and I do have IPv6 disabled on both anyway. Okay, so that's that. I also have set up a storage pool with an additional NVMe drive. It's a Toshiba RD400. It's got a small capacity, but this is just for test right now. So it does have 1 storage pool with a virtual disk, and on that virtual disk, it has the 1 volume, which is D, and we can see that down here, which is where we're going to install right here the NVMe vDisk1. This is where we're going to install our Hyper-V machines. So this first video, I'm not really going to get into storage pools and all that kind of stuff unless you guys want a video on that. I haven't set up any shares or anything like that yet, so it's basically just a stock system. Just got it to the point where I could make these videos for you guys. So I normally put my Hyper-V down here in the taskbar, but you can also find it up here in Tools after you install it. I know this is kind of like quick. I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but I'm trying to keep the video short, so just kind of layman terms if you can follow along with me. So Hyper-V, it's really simple. Once you get your basic system set up and configured, you can just go in here to manage and add roles and features and click next, role based feature, and click next, and select your server from the pool, and then the Hyper-V is just right here. So you would just click that and click next with the defaults, and that would be it. You can also get Hyper-V from here, and it doesn't matter if you click it there or if you click it here. It doesn't matter, it's the same thing. So once you set up Hyper-V, it will ask you to set up a switch, and you can set up a switch if you want during the install period, or you could do it later, which is what I like to do. I normally don't select any switches, and then I go to my virtual switch manager right here, and as you can see, I've got a T1V switch, so it's a virtual switch connected to that T1, the NIC team, and that's gonna run off the multiplexer driver. So if you select anything other than that, it won't work unless you want to share it with your other Realtek. But for now, we're just gonna leave it how I have it set up. Okay, so the other thing you need also is an ISO of the server, and you can put that in your documents. I just usually put it somewhere that it's easy to get to, you know, with the network share and whatever. I've got some drivers here from before setting up this machine. Actually, I had a little bit of difficulty getting some of the drivers this time around. Alright, so let me just check my hard drive space here on my laptop to make sure that this video isn't getting out of control. So that's not too bad, we're good so far. As you can see, I'm on a laptop, I don't have a lot of hard drive space. So alright, so what you want to do, it's pretty simple. Hyper-V is awesome. There's a lot of information online about Hyper-V, but I'm just gonna go through a basic excuse me, a basic configuration, how you set it up to get a virtual machine running on Windows 2016, Windows Server 2016, excuse me. Pretty simple. Right click, new virtual machine, and you're gonna get this little wizard here, and just go through the wizard. Now I give it a name, so I'm just gonna call this machine web server, because we are going to do another video later on where we set up a web server with WordPress and stuff like that. Now, for me, I want to store my virtual machine in a different location, so you have to click this here and click Browse, and then you can just go and select where you want it to be. Now, I want it to be in here, and I'm going to actually make a new folder called Web Server, so I can keep things organized for later on when I want to delete it. So we're just going to select this web server folder here, and you can see it's going to go inside that folder space right there. Just click next. You want generation 2 for 64-bit, right? So just go with generation 2. Startup memory, I like to go with 4096. You can use dynamic memory, but I found in the past that it's just better if you set up static memory. Dynamic memory is great, but you can run into some issues. I mean, you can do dynamic memory, but to be honest, I have 64 gigabytes in this machine. You know, I have a lot of memory available, right? So, you know, there's no point to skimp out on memory for now. I've actually run about 15 or 20 machines on this particular server. So you just hit next. The connection, you want to go with your T1V switch, of course. Next, and then you want to select your size of your hard drive. So I'm just gonna go with let's say 40 gigabytes. I think that's enough for now. As you can see, I don't have a lot of hard drive space, so we can always add another virtual disk later if we run out of space. So for now, we're just gonna go with 40. You can also attach a disk later, but I prefer to do it now during the setup process. Just hit next. Install an operating system from a bootable image file, which is like I was saying to you earlier here. We have our image file here, so we're just going to browse for that. And we're just going to select this one here. So we got our Windows Server, the 2016. We're going to hit next. And that's it. So we're going to hit finished, and it's going to do everything. It's going to set it all up and get it ready to boot up for the first time. So what I normally do before I boot it up is I just go through some of these settings here just to make sure that everything is you know, copacetic. So memory, everything's good there. What I normally do is go into the processor here, and I go down to the NUMA and just make sure that the hardware topology is correct, and then I go in and I set up I'm gonna add 2 virtual CPUs because I believe that if you have MySQL or you're gonna use MySQL or any sort of database or anything like that, you really do need 2 virtual processors. You can use one, but it's gonna be a little laggy. It's better just to go with 2. Alright. The other thing I like to do is just make sure that I can use some hardware acceleration on my network adapter, which you can Google some of that information later on. So all that stuff's great. Just click OK. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start it up. And then when it starts, you just want to hit a couple keys, and it'll start the process of loading that ISO. So since I didn't go through the setup of the server, I'm just going to do that now. And basically the main server, the setup is exactly the same. So rather than using an ISO, you would use a USB in your actual physical hardware machine. The setup process is exactly the same. Okay, so once you get to the screen, just hit next. Install now. It's going to start up the setup process, and it's going to extract all the files and all that stuff. So what you want to do is go with the desktop experience. I don't think you would need the data center evaluation because it's actually quite expensive. So if you do plan on buying this in the future, I think the cheapest license is $500 or maybe $1,000 or something like that. But Windows Server 2016 is pretty awesome, and to be honest with you, with everything that you get included in the software and all the possibilities, it is actually worth it. there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Anyhow, let's continue. So you just go next. Obviously you're going to accept the terms, right? Next, custom. Now some people click new, some people just click next. It's really up to you. I kind of do it like, sometimes I click new and then it'll make all the additional stuff, but usually I just click next, because Windows will automatically format the drive and create the proper permissions that it it'll create the proper partitions that it needs, you know, for the bootloader and stuff like that. So usually I just hit next, unless I have a feeling that there's something wrong with my drive or it's not reading it correctly or something like that. So as you can see, we're just going to get these files ready for installation, and it's quite quick. We can always come back down here while that's doing that and just check to see how our server's doing. Now, as you can see, you know, I'm only using a Core i3-6100 CPU at 3.7 gigahertz. Now, it's going to use quite a bit of, you know, threads, and the utilization is going to get quite high because we've enabled the virtual machine to use up to 100% of the CPU. So even though it only has 2 cores, it's actually run as a thread. So, you know, the Windows thread manager will just handle that, and it'll take care of all that for us. So during installation, you might get you know, a jump in your CPU usage, but don't worry about that for now. It would affect your installation in the future if you have machines already running. You might want to shut some, you know, some of the machines that you already have, you might want to shut them down while you're installing a new machine. You know, just a little hint in case you have like a game server running or something like that, and you go and try to add another VM, and then, you know, the players on your server or whatever, or your users experience a lag. As you can see, it'll drop down later on. Alright, so that's pretty much it. It's just going to get some the drivers that it needs ready from the internet, of course, because it's connected. And then it's basically going to ask us for a password. So once we get to that login screen there, I'll just go through my process, what I normally do when I set up the machine the first time. Now, of course, this machine, I've already done all the updates and stuff. So you come to the screen here, customize settings. The first user obviously is the administrator. So you just apologies for the Instagram stuff there. So you just you know, select a password that you're gonna remember, obviously, and you're gonna enter that in, right? We're just gonna make sure. Okay, hopefully I remember what the password is. So you just got to do the Control-Alt-Delete to unlock, which is here in the action menu. We're going to enter that password in there. Okay, so it's going to start up and boot the first time. Now, of course, the first boot is going to be, you know, a little slow, right? Now, of course, we can change the aspect ratio of the server as well, just by connecting to it again. It'll ask us, maybe this time it didn't. Oh yeah, that's right, we have to turn something on for that to work. Anyway, I normally hide this. Now you're gonna get some events in here, some critical. You could just hide these. The first thing I do normally is in the services here, you're going to see this downloaded maps manager. Now, I really have to resize this window. Anyhow, you just go here to the Windows Administrative Tools and go to Services. Now, I don't know why Windows doesn't automatically disable this Download Maps Manager by default. I don't know why it keeps... On a server, you really should have no reason to download a map with your location for security purposes. You don't really want anyone knowing particularly where your server is physically located, right? Anyhow, you just disable that, click Apply, and then we'll just go through and start these. We're going to fix these a little later on, but for now, just to save some time, we're just going to start them like that. And you can see once we refresh here in a second, that'll all go green. Okay, so we're all green here now. Now, normally the first thing I do, I hit my time zone. Obviously, I'm in Toronto, so I'm going to go to Eastern Time, US and Canada. And like I said, I'm going to turn off the enhanced security for Internet Explorer. Obviously, I don't need that. And then I'm going to enable this remote desktop here. Click OK and apply. And then I'm also going to go in here and change the IP. Now, I'm just going to set it to what it is, right? So it's 13. So we'll just go with a... That'll work just fine. You put your... Oh geez, I apologize. I haven't had my morning coffee yet this morning, guys, so you'll have to forgive me if I... Alright. So we got our IP there. We just went with 13, which is what it was with DHCP. For now, you can always make a note. I normally make a log of all my machines and what their IPs are and write it down, and I keep it on both desktops so I can keep track. That way, if I have to do some port forwarding or something like that, I quickly know which server's what. Okay, so we're going to just click OK, and it's probably going to say no network access, and we may have to go back in and fix it. So we'll just wait a second here and see if it should be fine. I've been having some issues with this switch that I'm using, so I don't know why it just won't let me set a static IP on this machine. So we may skip this part. Just let me try one more time and see if it'll let's just try to ping. Yeah, we're getting a ping on the DNS. We're getting a ping on Google, so it looks like we have network connectivity even though it says no network access. So we're just going to leave that like that for now. So we've set our static IP. Yeah, see, we don't have, it's saying we don't have any internet. So I don't know why. Oops. I don't know why my switch is giving me a hard time. So it's saying waiting, yeah. Something about my switch, that the configuration that I have, for some reason it just won't let me set static IP. So for now we're just gonna go with the good old DHCP. See, as soon as I change it back, I mean it works right away. I don't know if it's something to do with the DNS or I'm not quite sure. I should probably write down these DNS servers and pop them in there. Anyway, for now, yeah, it's my dinner time, even though I haven't had my coffee yet. for now we're just going to leave it like that just to save some time, okay? But you do want to set up a static IP, and you just do that by double clicking properties, IP4, and then you go like that. So I probably have to set up a DNS server later on with Active Directory and so on and so forth, and do some additional configurations to get it to work with my router. But this is just a test lab, so for now we're just gonna leave it like that. Okay, so the next thing I do is I rename the machine also to match what it is. That's why I named it here in the Hyper-V. We've got web server here. We've got web server. You can see it up in the window there. So we're just going to name it web server. And it's going to say that we have to restart and all that stuff. So we're going to just go ahead and restart it, reboot it now. So you can see it's going to restart here. I don't really know why, what the, I'm not quite sure what the issue is with my IP addresses here. It's probably because I'm on a wireless hub, and it's only letting me set one static IP for one specific machine, which really doesn't make any sense, but whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and connect, and it's not giving us any options to normally it gives us some settings for how big we can. Let's see, settings. We should have some options for enhanced mode. Oh, there we go. Allow enhanced sessions. My bad. I forgot to enable it. So you want to do that enhance session there on your Hyper-V. Alright, so let's try this again. So there we go. So I usually go with 14 by 900. I think that'll fit just fine. There we go. Okay. So we're going to log back in. Apologies for getting off track there a little bit. I really do need to go make a coffee so I don't lose my mind. Alright, so as you can see here, we have the new web server up and running, and we're just going to check the details here. So you can see we have 2 processors, and once the server boots up and everything, I mean, the utilization, it goes down quite a bit. I mean, it'll probably hover around 4 or 5 most of the time. And our host machine, it's going to be similar. It doesn't really take a lot of power to run these VMs, or a lot of, I mean, memory is your thing. Once you have a few machines running, it's memory that you run out of quickly, right? Okay, so like we say, we've got some alerts here. We're just gonna hide those because we know that we have the alert from our install process. So again, let's just go through. We could fix some of these annoyances right now if we want to. So let's just go ahead and do that. I don't know why they don't have these set as automatic from the get-go, but yeah, it's Windows. So anyway, let's go and try to find some of these. So we got user access logging. Apologies for my loud mouse scroll wheel. User access logging, they have it at this delayed start, and you'll get that red error thing for quite some time, and it never actually does start automatically. So I just change it to automatic and hit apply. And then we're going to go through diagnostic policy service. Let's find that, because it's a pain in the ass every time you start up your server and you have to go through and fix all of these things. I don't know, maybe it's just me, it just drives me crazy to have all these red errors. So we got diagnostic policy service here. So let's get that one. Set that to automatic. Click apply. And the sync host I know we can't do. And then the distributed transaction coordinator. That should be automatic as well. Alright, so we got those. Just gonna refresh and see if those fix themselves. And they did. Alright, so there we go. And this is what you want to see usually. You want to have green all across the board. So we have our web server set up. We've got our we don't have a static IP at the moment because of my network issues. I don't really have a remedy for that at the moment, unless I could try to set up a different I could configure my network differently, but for now let me just try again. Let me just see if I can get this to work, because for some reason, let's just try like a different all right. Let's just see if it's gonna work. I don't know why it's for some reason it's not letting me set a static IP on this adapter. And as you can see, there is no network connectivity. And if we try to go to a website like Google, for example, it won't open. Now, strangely, if I set it to, now I know if I turn on the TCP IPv6, it might connect. So let's just see. Let's just see if that'll work. No. My network was doing some really strange things last night. Anyhow, it's weird because even if I set it to use, like, see, like now it's working. So like even if I set it to 13, like it still doesn't work, which is totally weird. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyhow, so we'll just leave that for like that for now. So we have everything set up there so far for the Hyper-V, and that's pretty much it. So you know, our Hyper-V machine is running. We can see right now it's using 0% of the CPU, and you know, our system's not taking a real big hit. It's probably going to download an update in the background. I guess I should remember my settings for future connections. Let me just initiate a server update while I process this video. So I normally once I'm done all this, just usually come in here and check for updates, and it'll update from the latest cumulative update for Windows Server. So it's gonna download, and you can see the downloads quite quick. Even though I'm on Wi-Fi, it's pretty good. I know it's not proper to have your server on Wi-Fi. I get that. It's just I've recently changed my lab environment, and I no longer have my switch here in my office. I've moved some things around, so at the moment where the server is located, there is no wired connection, so I have a wireless hub that I'm using. So that probably will be the reason why I'm having difficulty setting static IPs. Now, I may be able to come into this main machine here if I had to, and you know, take off this static IP, right? On this particular machine right here, I'm using a static IP. So it's possible that because I have this one static IP on this channel, even though I've got 3 NICs on this machine, for whatever reason it's not letting me set any additional static IPs. I don't know. I tried to figure it out last night for a few hours and it boggled my mind. So in the meantime, I can only have one. So in that case, if I really had to set a static IP for the web server, I could always just set this back to DHCP, and then of course go into my virtual machine and do it that way. So I'm just gonna let this run. As you can see, during an update, it's gonna use a little bit more of the CPU, but that's fine. I'm just gonna let that go ahead and do its thing in the background there, and you can see it's running. It's not really using any CPU, so I mean it's good. Let's see, I don't think I downloaded the oh yeah, I can just use it here. So let's just check some of the temps here on the server for the moment. Now I like this gigabyte. I'm using a gigabyte motherboard, so you can see right now the speeds I'm running at. Let me just check. We got 33 degrees Celsius on the CPU. System is at 29 degrees Celsius, and the PCH is 42. The server's water cooled, so that's why those temps are like that. Even if I load it right out, it's not gonna really go up over 40. I water cool all my servers. It's just, as you could tell, I mean, my server's running and you can't even hear it. You could probably hear my ThinkPad fan more than you could hear my server. So yeah, anyhow, that's done. This is the first video, so I'm just gonna close this down. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm gonna load this up to my YouTube channel, and you know, I'm gonna make a few more videos in this series. Have some requests from some friends with you know, some of the things that they want to do at their server. So I'm just gonna make a series of videos regarding Windows Server 2016 and Hyper-V, you know, setting up web servers and stuff like that. If you guys want some more content, let me know. I'll try to put as much details in the description as possible, and yeah, for now that's it. So I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.